Hello and welcome everyone to my channel where I offer fun guided digital art tutorials on Procreate. This is your time to relax and unwind, so grab a beverage and let's dive in. This demonstration will be provided on the Procreate app using an iPad. However, you can follow along with any drawing tablet or just a plain and simple brush with paints. New videos are put out every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Please like and subscribe to follow along. Step number one, we're going to create a new canvas and we're going to go with 12-inch width and 12-inch height. Step number two, we're going to download the template and the color palette from the description box below. Step number three, we're going to start on the sky and the water. So I've inserted my own custom palette for you guys to download. We're going to be using the first four colors of the palette to create the background and the sky. Here I infilled the background with a gray color. I selected the cloud brush from the elements section, and I'm just feathering in a dark clouded color in the background. Next I follow with a white color to create a little bit of highlight and light. You see here I'm blotching in a couple random colors in the background just so the clouds look more random and less uniform. Next I take the smudge tool and I smudge all of those clouds together. I'm adding a little bit more white brightness to the skyline. Next I'm going to insert my template here, and then I'm going to add layer number 2 on top of the template so that we're painting on a separate layer than the template itself. I just want to mark in where that water line is, and then I'm going to be removing the template. You'll see right here. So now I have that line, and now I know what I'm working with. So I just want to brighten up that area above the water line. And I'm going to carry that color very lightly down into the water. So I take a dark gray color and I kind of fill in where the water is going to be. And then the smudge tool, I kind of just smudge all those colors together so you can't see any definitive paintbrush marks. I grab the dry brush selection in the painting section with a light gray and I splotch back and forth to create almost what looks like waves. You want it to be very subtle and not too obvious here. Next, I mark in with a very fine brush with a white color a couple long wave lines to indicate kind of like a white cap. Step number 4, we're going to be working on the lighthouse. So you'll see a red color at the top of the palette. We're going to be using the colors to the right of that red color. Starting with the lightest, so the light is going to be hitting the right side of the lighthouse. We're going to pick the medium tone for the middle and then the darkest tone for the left-hand side. And then all of the tiers, we're going to be using that dark color. I'm adding a little bit of shadowing underneath each tier. You can pause the video at any point if you feel like it's going too fast. I add a little bit of color to those railings. And then that red color I add as the beacon on top. For the light, I add a little bit of white on the top tier. Step number 5, we're going to be working on the landscape. So we're actually using the same 3 colors that we did on the lighthouse. We're going to keep it very consistent. We're also going to use that with the lady. So we pick the darkest color towards the bottom of the mound there. We're going to carry that dark color up. We're going to pick the medium tone, and we're going to fill in kind of mid-range up, and then the lighter tone we're going to save for the pathway. Here I kind of smudge the colors together just so I get a base color to work with before we add detail. Here I go in with a medium tone, I add the stairs, and I add a few details to the pathway. I also add a shadow behind where the lady is standing, and I add some shadowing towards the bottom of that hill there, where the water is going to meet the land. We're going to be using the smudge tool, so don't worry about it looking perfect. We're just building up textures here. Next, we're going to be adding a little bit of the highlights to kind of where the top of the land mass would be. And then a few low lights where the stairs are, just to accent where the shadowing would be. And here is kind of where I smudge all those colors together. Anything that's too obvious of a brush stroke this is where I hit it now with the smudge tool. Step number 6 is we're going to work on the lady. So again, we're adding a layer on top of the template. And I use those same 3 colors that we did on the land and the lighthouse. The lighter color goes on the right and the darker color goes on the left. And I smudge all of them together. Next, I kind of carry through a few highlights of the light color. And then a few low lights. You can see I'm just adding some shadowing. I fill in the hair with just a dark brown color. We're going to add more detail to this a little bit later. Okay, so step number 7 is just doing the final touches. We're going to make everything look decent here. So I'm going to start from the top of the painting. We're going to work our way down and we're just going to add detailing. And we're just going to edge some things up a bit. So I'm just using kind of like a smaller acrylic brush. I'm just working at getting those lines more distinguished. I do go in with a smudge tool after. With realistic paintings, you don't want any of the lines to be super distinguishable. You want them to be a little bit blurred out, just to go for that realism factor. So I'm kind of accentuating some of the railings, just any point that you think needs a little bit of a pop. Here I add one more support, as you can see, underneath the tier. Okay, and then this is where I take the smudge tool and I hit any obvious lines that I think are too dark. Okay, so I'm adding grass, I guess, here. You can use any brush that you want. I tend to like just scribbling in grass, and then we hit it with the smudge tool after. So I'm taking a darker color for the grass at the top, just to stand out against that background color. And then on the darker points below, I switch to a light color to make it stand out more. And again, just those scribbling grass movements. I find it very therapeutic. And I'm just kind of smudging out any points here. Adding a few more detailings to the path and then to the shadow. You can spend as much time as you want on this painting. I'm just doing a tutorial, so I can't have it be an hour long. I mean, I could, but it's not realistic for it to be an hour long. So this is just basic. If you really want to hone in on the details, go for it. Here I'm just adding a little bit of shadowing to the hair. And then highlights on the right hand side. Just scribbles. Next, I'm going to add some highlights, or I guess white caps, kind of where the water is going to be washing up onto the shoreline. I'm just roughly etching this in. And again, we're going to use the smudge tool after. And then the smudge tool, we're going to feather the water upwards so it looks like it's splashing and it's creating that wave kind of look. So I went back to that acrylic brush there and just adding a few more dark points to the side of the shore. Again, I go back at that shadow. I wanted it a little bit darker. A few other points I touch up. And this is it, guys. Thanks for following along. If you have any advice for me on how to better my videos, please leave it down in the comments below. Thank you so much.